Application. The use I would make of this doctrine is of exhortation to all Christless persons to press into the kingdom of God. Some of you are inquiring what you shall do. You seem to desire to know what is the way wherein salvation is to be sought, and how you may be likely to obtain it. You have now heard the way that the Holy Word directs to. Some are seeking, but it cannot be said of them that they are pressing into the kingdom of heaven. There are many that in time past have sought salvation, but not in this manner, and so they never obtained, but are now gone to hell. Some of them sought it year after year, but failed of it, and perished at last. They were overtaken with divine wrath, and are now suffering the fearful misery of damnation, and have no rest day or night, having no more opportunity to seek, but must suffer and be miserable throughout the never-ending ages of eternity. Be exhorted, therefore, not to seek salvation as they did, but let the kingdom of heaven suffer violence from you. Here I would first answer an objection or two, and then proceed to give some directions how to press into the kingdom of God. Objection 1. Some may be ready to say, "We cannot do this of ourselves. That strength of desire and firmness of resolution that have been spoken of are out of our reach. If I endeavor to resolve and to seek with engagedness of spirit, I find I fail. My thoughts are presently off from the business, and I feel myself dull, and my engagedness relaxed, in spite of all I can do." Answer number 1. Though earnestness of mind be not immediately in your power, yet the consideration of what has been now said of the need of it may be a means of stirring you up to it. It is true, persons never will be thoroughly engaged in this business unless it be by God's influence. But God influences persons by means. Persons are not stirred up to a thorough earnestness without some considerations that move them to it. And if persons can but be made sensible of the necessity of salvation, and also duly consider the exceeding difficulty of it, and the greatness of the opposition, and how short and uncertain the time is, but yet are sensible that they have an opportunity, and that there is a possibility of their obtaining, they will need no more in order to their being thoroughly engaged and resolved in this matter. If we see persons slack and unresolved and unsteady, it is because they do not enough consider these things. Answer 2. Though strong desires and resolutions of mind be not in your power, yet painfulness of endeavors is in your power. It is in your power to take pains in the use of means, yea, very great pains. You can be very painful and diligent in watching your own heart and striving against sin. Though there is all manner of corruption in the heart continually ready to work, yet you can very laboriously watch and strive against these corruptions, and it is in your power, with great diligence, to attend the matter of your duty towards God and towards your neighbor. It is in your power to attend all ordinances and all public and private duties of religion, and to do it with your might. It would be a contradiction to suppose that a man cannot do these things with all the might he has, though he cannot do them with more might than he has. The dullness and deadness of the heart and slothfulness of disposition do not hinder men being able to take pains, though it hinders their being willing. That is one thing wherein your laboriousness may appear, even striving against your own dullness. That men have a dead and sluggish heart does not argue that they be not able to take pains. It is so far from that it gives occasion for pains. It is one of the difficulties in the way of duty that persons have to strive with, and that gives occasion for struggling and labor. If there were no difficulties attended seeking salvation, there would be no occasion for striving. A man would have nothing to strive about. There is indeed a great deal of difficulty attending all duties required of those that would obtain heaven. It is an exceedingly difficult thing for them to keep their thoughts. It is a difficult thing seriously, or to any good purpose, to consider matters of the greatest importance. It is a difficult thing to hear, or read, or pray attentively. But it does not argue that a man cannot strive in these things because they are difficult. Nay, he could not strive therein if there were not difficulty in them. For what is there, excepting difficulties, that any can have to strive or struggle with in any affair or business? Earnestness of mind and diligence of endeavor tend to promote each other. He that has a heart earnestly engaged will take pains, and he that is diligent and painful in all duty probably will not be so long before he finds the sensibleness of his heart and earnestness of his spirit greatly increased. Objection 2. Some may object that if they are earnest and take a great deal of pains, they shall be in danger of trusting to what they do. They are afraid of doing their duty for fear of making a righteousness of it. Answer. There is ordinarily no kind of seekers that trust so much to what they do as slack and dull seekers. Though all seeking salvation that have never been the subjects of a thorough humiliation do trust in their own righteousness, yet some do it much more fully than others. Some, though they trust in their own righteousness, yet are not quiet in it. And those who are most disturbed in their self-confidence, and therefore in the likeliest way to be wholly brought off from it, are not such as go on in a remiss way of seeking, but such as are most earnest and thoroughly engaged, partly because in such a way conscience is kept more sensible. A more awakened conscience will not rest so quietly in moral and religious duties as one that is less awakened. A dull seeker's conscience will be in a great measure satisfied and quieted with his own works and performances, but one that is thoroughly awakened cannot be stilled or pacified with such things as these. In this way, persons gain much more knowledge of themselves and acquaintance with their own hearts than in a negligent, slight way of seeking, for they have a great deal more experience of themselves. It is experience of ourselves and finding what we are that God commonly makes use of as the means of bringing us off from all dependence on ourselves. But men never get acquaintance with themselves so fast as in the most earnest way of seeking. They that are in this way have more to engage them to think of their sins, and strictly to observe themselves, and have much more to do with their own hearts than others. Such a one has much more experience of his own weakness than another that does not put forth and try his strength, and will therefore sooner see himself dead in sin. Such a one, though he hath a disposition continually to be flying to his own righteousness, yet finds rest in nothing. He wanders about from one thing to another, seeking something to ease his disquieted conscience. He is driven from one refuge to another, goes from mountain to hill, seeking rest and finding none, and therefore will the sooner prove that there is no rest to be found, nor trust to be put in any creature whatsoever. It is therefore quite a wrong notion that some entertain, that the more they do, the more they shall depend on it. Whereas the reverse is true. The more they do, or the more thorough they are in seeking, the less will they be likely to rest in their doings, and the sooner will they see the vanity of all that they do. So that persons will exceedingly miss it if ever they neglect to do any duty either to God or man, whether it be any duty of religion, justice, or charity, under a notion of its exposing them to trust in their own righteousness. It is very true that it is a common thing for persons, when they earnestly seek salvation, to trust in the pains that they take. But yet commonly those that go on in a more slight way trust a great deal more securely to their dull services than he that is pressing into the kingdom of God does to his earnestness. Men's slackness in religion and their trust in their own righteousness strengthen and establish one another. Their trust in what they have done and what they now do settles them in a slothful rest and ease, and hinders their being sensible of their need of rousing up themselves and pressing forward. And on the other hand, their negligence tends so to benumb them and keep them in such ignorance of themselves that the most miserable refuges are stupidly rested in as sufficient. Therefore we see that when persons have been going on for a long time in such a way, and God afterwards comes through thoroughly to awaken them and to stir them up to be in good earnest, He shakes all their old foundations and rouses them out of their old resting places, so that they cannot quiet themselves with those things that formerly kept them secure. I would now proceed to give some directions how you should press into the kingdom of God. Number 1. Be directed to sacrifice everything to your soul's eternal interest. Let seeking this be so much your bent, and what you are so resolved in, that you will make everything give place to it. Let nothing stand before your resolution of seeking the kingdom of God. Whatever it be that you used to look upon as a convenience, or comfort, or ease, or thing desirable on any account, if it stands in the way of this great concern, let it be dismissed without hesitation. And if it be of that nature that it is likely always to be a hindrance, then wholly have done with it, and never entertain any expectation from it more.